Hello everyone, welcome to a Terraria building tutorial, Custom Trees. So a basic run through of what we'll be doing today. I'm going to be going over custom trees in Terraria. This is just going to be a design I personally like to use for my builds. I'll be trying to give some tips for your own personal trees and designs too. Just want to throw out something really quick before we continue. I myself have learned a lot from a couple of awesome builders and huge members of the Terraria community, Chaos and Fury Forged. Chaos's trees in Super Terraria World and Fury's trees in Fury's tree tutorial had a huge impact on my own trees, so I definitely suggest checking those awesome guys out for yourselves. Alright, moving on. So if you're unfamiliar with custom trees in Terraria, they're basically player-made living trees. The main materials we'll be using is a variation of paint, wood wands, leaf wands, dye plants, and leaf wall. A few things to keep in mind before we continue. Proportions. Having the right proportion with your trees. Usually, if the stump is thick, the top will be much larger. If the stump is thin, the top would usually be smaller. The altitude of the tree helps determine the size of the top as well. Most proportions with trees, when I'm doing them, they really just depend on the tree you're doing, the build you're doing, and your preferred build style. I'll be showing you guys and walking y'all through the creation of what I would think is the most common tree that I see done in Terraria. It's basically a custom living tree. The way I look at it is it's on the same level as the player is. So an actuated tree would be behind the player, and then something like water or wire would be in front of the player. When we start this, keep in mind the growth style of the tree. The way the branches grow, where the sun is, etc., like how it would grow in real life and just trees in general. I have this tree to the right as an example of how this tree is going to look. If you'd like to see another example of this tree style, I've done a really large custom living tree in a speed build a while back. That speed build is the Fantasy Tower. That might be worth giving a look if you're interested, get some inspiration from that. Hopefully that'll be inspiration for this kind of tree. That's probably one of the biggest trees I've done. When I do my own trees, which is really a preference, I wanted to use a mixture of the two living wood wands. I like using the living wood wand for the stump, then the rich mahogany wand for the branches. I use the rich mahogany wand for a couple of reasons. One of them being I generally like the natural look of the wood. It looks a lot more like branches and it has more texture to it. The second reason is because I don't like when the leaves connect to the branches. If we were to use regular wood wand, then the regular wood wand and the regular leaf wand, they'd connect. I don't like that for a couple of reasons. Mainly, since it looks odd if the leaves are painted or the wood is actuated, it just doesn't look right with me. I also don't like using rich mahogany leaves for the tops, which if I did that, that wouldn't mix with the wood wand, but I don't know, that's just a personal preference. Okay, so let's start with the base of the tree. I'm going to have this tree a bit more slanted than the tree to the right, so we're going to start with the stump being slanted a bit. Just slanted, I guess. It's not that slanted, but it's just a little bit, a little curve. Since this is on the same level as the player, we're not going to have the wood on top of the blocks, but we're going to dig into the dirt to kind of create some roots. If it was just floating on top of the blocks, it wouldn't make much sense to me. Where are the roots? I don't know, like if you can see the tree and walk into the tree, you should be able to see the roots and walk into the roots and blah 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 blah. So yeah. When we start with a stump, I want it to be a bit smoother, make it natural, like it grew there. It's Terraria. Terraria isn't realistic, but sometimes trying to make things seem realistic and natural, it does help detailing and such. Okay, so once we get the stump done and that's all taken care of, we have it smoothed out, hammered, just getting the look that we want to. We're basically going to start with a rich mahogany wand with brown paint, but we'll paint it afterwards since we're removing lots of trial and error and testing this out. Does this look good there? We want to mimic the growth of an IRL tree. A good example tree for this style would be an oak tree, I think. I don't know. I looked that up after I built it. I built this off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure I had somewhat of an oak tree in mind, even if it was like, if I wasn't consciously thinking about it. We're going to start with single block lines to create these supports of the tree. Trees don't have supports, I know, but you know what I mean. Anyway, we'll start with the single block lines, and then we'll thicken those, then we'll add branches onto those, and then branches onto those. Something doing trees always makes me think of is like, it was an art project we did a long time ago when I was really little. You start with one line curved straight up. Doesn't matter if it's straight, curved, whatever. I said that weird. Then you just keep adding lines to that. But you curve them more and more, and once you're done, you have a ton of branches on the top and a nice big stump. That's kind of how I look at trees when I do them myself. Start from the stump, and then just go up, curving it as you go. And then then add branches to those branches, and then branches to those branches, and once you're done, that's when we can add some details and leaves and such. So it's basically creating a nice structure with leaves, or branches with branches and branches, like a bunch of branches. Yeah. Now that we have all of that done, we can move on to our leaves. Tops are flora. I don't know. Now we can move on to our leaves, the leaves on the trees. Anyway, we're gonna start with a little cover around the tree, and once we're done, it's gonna look a bit like a little mushroom. Like a little mushroom. I want to put some emphasis on those supports we did earlier, and we're going to make huge clumps where those supports are. We're also going to knock out some space in between those huge clumps, just to kind of make a bunch of different clumps. So we're going to knock out the space in between the huge clumps, kind of like we did with the tree on the right. If you can see that, it's going to turn out very similar to that. Now we're gonna start adding some leaf clumps in the tree. Since this tree is on the same level as the player, we're gonna keep a lot of the branches that are going into the leaves and such, since it makes logical sense to me. I don't know how else to put that. So since we're done with that, with the leaves and stuff where we want them to be, we're gonna start knocking out some branches and putting some leaves there. Like I said, I learned a lot from Fury and Chaos. This particular trick here I started doing years ago after watching Fury's tree tutorial. Great stuff. And this isn't a must-do, but I like making these clumps big. If they're too little, it looks too scattered. Something I thought of which really changed my perspective on trees, and I think about it a lot when I'm doing my own trees, is the leaf blocks in Terraria. They aren't one leaf, they're multiple leaves into one little block. So to me, they look better as clumps than single blocks, because single blocks just, you don't see that too often. I don't know. It's just my thought process on it. And okay, so now we're going to start adding some leaf wall to these clumps. We're going to add them behind the leaves to kind of give more of a shape, hide those little bright sky, we're going to hide those little bright sky patches that show through the gaps in between the branches and the leaves. We're also going to take that and we're going to put the leaf wall, I guess, in between the branches where there isn't any leaves, because since it's a darker wall, it's technically would be considered behind what's already there, so it would make sense to see the leaf wall in clumps just as we see the leaf in clumps. Where was I? Yeah, we're gonna add some spaces. Place and stuff. Keep in mind, hammering the blocks and making it nice and smooth is very, very helpful if you do that before adding wall. Oh man, I can't tell you how many times I just have to spend a long time trying to detail the wall and then redo it since I totally messed up. Now, it's time for the rich mahogany leaf wand, and we're going to turn our paint tool on with teal paint, and then the actuation tool on as well. We're going to place these just around where the leaf wall is, just to fill in those gaps and add some extra detail. Once we're done with that, you're just going to actuate them and just kind of look at it, take in how it does, and once you do that, you can really see the different things that might need to be changed, the different clumps that might need to be thicker, or this shouldn't be there, that should be there. Once you're done and you have all those little details in, it makes it easier. Sometimes if I do the leaf wand and stuff, it looks weird later. I don't know. Okay, so last but not least, we'll be adding some strange plants. A lot of people do this, and it's a pretty cool technique. What I like doing with this technique is knocking out single block spaces, making sure there's no wall behind it, and then placing the strange plant into that little space. Keep in mind, you can't place the strange plants on or under a hammered block. It has to be like a regular block. Once we're done with that, we'll be adding some wall to cover up those little sky gaps that we see, but we don't want to completely remove the light that we get from those little gaps. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the wall and we're going to put it like in the blocks around the gap, but not in the gap, just so it covers it up, but we still get that light. That's how I do that with some other trees I did in some other videos that also might be worth checking out. I add a tree in like almost every video I do. I love doing trees. So with that said, with those added, with every block hammered and every wall placed, we're just about done with this tree. Some people like adding more details. Sometimes I'll add cobwebs decor on T-Edit, like the arrows and stuff, vines depending on the tree, blueberries, etc. Getting creative with paint too. There are really cool trees that you can do with paint and actuation. The next video of this series will be touching up a bit more on paint and actuation, and hopefully go more into detail with what we learned today, but we'll be adding that to other trees because there's some other cool tree designs I want to talk about, I guess. Yeah. Okay, with that said, yeah, we're just about done. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I had a blast putting this video together. I hope it was helpful. If there's more you'd like to know, please feel free to ask. I'm planning to do some more videos to this series, so getting ideas, specific things that you guys really want to see that I didn't touch up in this video, please make sure to let me know. And I'm always open to video suggestions, build suggestions, just general suggestions as well, so yeah, make sure to let me know. You can leave a comment, you can join the Discord, ask about there, a lot of different things. And if you guys are new to the channel, it would mean a bunch if you'd consider checking out some other stuff we do here, and or possibly subscribing to the channel. It would really help out a bunch. If you want to see some more gaming content, you can check me out on Twitch, where we'll do some occasional building streams, as well as a few variety streams every now and then. Usually we're just chilling out, having some good times, playing some games. You can check me out on a bunch of other social media platforms too. All that stuff's in the description for those of you guys who are interested. And if you would like to see more videos like this one, again, just make sure to let me know. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I will see all of you next time. Peace.